welcome to day 5 of the CPC National Congress here in Beijing. I'm with my colleague Dayu.
Hey Nick. Yeah, this is Dayu over here. Welcome to our CGTN Live. And we're here at the Media Center of the 19th Party Congress. And
so let's recap on the last 5 days. So if you haven't been paying much attention, last Wednesday Xi Jinping, he's the President of China, General Secretary of the Communist Party, he delivered a marathon 3.5-hour work report looking at the last 5 years in China, looking ahead to the next 5 years into the future.
Yeah, he covered a lot of issues from reforms to economy, as well as matters that are really relating to people's everyday lives. So today, the press conference is also going to be very heavily focused on people's everyday lives as well.
Yeah, so we have ministers from no less than 4 different ministries and also 1 commission. I'm going to have to look at my phone because there's just so many.
The names are a little bit too long, so
there's just so many. We want to get them right.
Yep.
So we have the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
We have the Ministry of Civil Affairs, Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development, and last but not least, the National Health and Family Planning Commission. And I will also be on my phone throughout this broadcast. If you have any comments, questions, send them in the comment section in Facebook, and we will do our best to answer your questions.
Yeah. If you want to move to Beijing to live, you can ask either of us, because Nick has been living in Beijing for 4 years, and I've been living in Beijing for pretty much throughout my whole life. So, yeah, any questions, guys?
Yeah. So today's conference is looking at improving the lives of the Chinese people.
Exactly.
And one of the main themes is meeting the expectations of the people.
Yeah.
So Dayu, you're a young guy living in Beijing, working here. What are your expectations?
Well, there are a lot of things to expect. From a personal level, I of course I want to get more money. Everybody does. Yeah, everybody wants to get a little bit of cash just to improve their lives, as well as better housing conditions, cleaner air, as well as better traffic. So it's like a lot of things that Chinese people are looking up to now are pretty similar to people around the whole world, like cities across.
Yeah, these are big global concepts where everybody wants a good city to live in,
Exactly.
Good education.
We're no different. Yeah,
exactly.
And in Beijing, it's so packed here. We got at least 23 million people living in the city, so the urban development is rapid, but in the meantime, there are a lot of issues to tackle.
Yeah, and I think one of the big plans coming up in the future is they want to cap the population in Beijing.
Yeah. And they want to develop the surrounding areas to have a city network, so that people can commute can commute from work to live.
So people aren't packed into one city centre. They can live a more life.
Yes, and that's one of the things I hope for.
So I'm sure that the Chinese people have a huge amount of expectations, but things have improved so much in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little. I've been here for so long that some of the things, maybe the little changes that just come to me, but I haven't noticed. What about, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I've been here for 4 years. In all that time, I've seen things improve. The city of Beijing has improved a lot. I can see that there's a bigger middle class of people, like the restaurants, bars, shops. They're just full of people. It's packed. It's even more so than London or in the UK. There's really a lot of energy in Beijing.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the city. One thing I want to mention particularly, though, is that bike sharing is so convenient here.
Yeah. This has been a big thing this past year, right?
Yeah, it's just emerging, and well, now it has already become a part of my everyday life. So there are quite many changes here every day happening in China. So if you don't want to skip your beat, please follow CGTN.
Yeah, very good. let's go briefly over education. In Xi Jinping's work report last week, he said that education needs to be a priority. It's going to be a big focus on just giving students more choice when they take the Gaokao, the higher education exam.
Yeah.
So this is really important.
Actually, it's a little bit complex in this situation here. So it's also like as a local living in Beijing, I can explain it a little bit. So China still has the hukou system. So like if you're a Beijing resident, like register in Beijing City, then you can go to Beijing school. If you come to Beijing to work, then you probably have to work, like your kid has probably got to wait for a couple of years before they can actually.
So hukou is the household registration.
Yeah, household registration system. So the government is trying to change the situation now to help everyone living in the city to living in the big cities to get the same opportunities for education.
And I think in this press conference they're definitely going to talk about hukou reform.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what we're curious to know about from the press conference.
Yeah.
So the next one is Education, Ministry of Education, if I remember correctly.
And we also have the Health Commission. And there's a big thing that has to do with Healthy China 2030, where they want more people to be active, to reduce pollution, they want the food standards to be better. They just want a generally healthier population. Exactly.
I think the sports industries have been developing so much in recent years as well. I remember one of the stories I did earlier this year was about mixed martial arts. So it started off from nowhere last year, and then competitions are popping up, like domestic and international as well. So
and it's a lifestyle change.
More and more people are signing up for gym. And me as well.
Me too. I like the bike sharing as well. That's part of this healthy lifestyle.
Cool. Really important. So the press conference is coming up really quickly, and if you have any questions, please leave your comments on CGTN Facebook or our Chinese platform, Weibo. And we'll try to answer it.
And check us out on the app as well.
So I think we're going to join the press corps to attend the press conference now. So see you guys later.
See you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello, welcome to CGTN's special coverage on the 19th National Congress of the CPC. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. In a short while, we'll go live to the news conference on the development of the Chinese people's livelihood. Party representatives serving as officials in education, civil affairs, employment, housing and health will brief the media on their work over the past 5 years. And for more insight into all these topics, we're joined in the studio by our current affairs commentator, Mr. Li Yong. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Li. But first, let's cross live to our reporter Wang Hui in Beijing. She's been following this event very closely. Hello, Wang Hui. What can we expect from Sunday morning's briefing?
Morning, Pan Deng. Over the past few days, the news briefings were mainly about politics, party building, and the macroeconomy. But today's will be a bit more down to earth, essentially on initiatives to improve people's livelihoods. General Secretary Xi Jinping said in his work report that the fundamental goal of the party is to improve the welfare of the Chinese people. So the top officials from those 5 departments are here today to talk about just that. So I think later on the media will be able to learn about the work and ambitions of the departments in this area. So I think the briefing will be very informative. And I remember General Secretary Xi Jinping alluded to the evolution of China's principal contradiction, where now it is between the parties, the countries, unbalanced and inadequate development and the people's ever-growing desire for a better life. And the party is searching hard for more sustainable ways to advance human development. So I think a lot of problems or a lot of questions raised later will center around this principal contradiction, and I'm sure they will be addressed. For example, how to manage the country's skyrocketing housing prices, especially in first-tier cities like Beijing, and how to find a balance in education, and how to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor. So I think all these questions will be touched upon very soon.
Well, Wang Hui, you've just mentioned quite a lot of crucial issues about this country. So is there an issue that you might have a special interest in yourself?
Well, the issue that has drawn my own attention is about the social welfare for the elderly. My own experience resonates. Now here I can show you there are 2 train tickets. They are from Beijing to Changsha. Changsha is my hometown in southern China, where my parents live. Now they are still very healthy and are able to look after themselves, thankfully. But in 5-10 years, when they might slow down a bit more, I can't imagine how I can take care of them and how can we manage emergencies if something really came up. To be honest, I feel really bad because my parents have become so-called empty nest seniors. Actually, there are a lot of young people in China are facing the same issue as I am because of the high cost of living or other difficulties. Their parents cannot stay with them. And because of these long-held traditions, many senior people don't want to move into a nursing home as they don't want to be seen as being abandoned by their family. And on the other hand, the social care system in China for the elderly people hasn't been developed well. The country still lacks of professional nursing homes and experienced care workers. So how can we resolve these problems? How can we provide better nursing homes and a care system for these elderly people and meet their needs? And their needs in emotional, medical, and economic support. I think all these issues should be resolved, and hopefully we can find an answer very soon. Back to you, Panda.
Thank you very much, Wang Hui, our reporter Wang Hui in Beijing. Meanwhile, the Chinese government has taken many measures to improve people's livelihood, especially in less developed regions. To get a better sense of what the government has done, let's cross live to our reporter Cui Huiao in Panjin City in northeast China's Liaoning province. Hello, Huiao. Tell us more programs the local government has launched to better improve people's livelihood there.
Hi, Pandon. Right, so one of the campaigns to raise living standards in the countryside goes under the slogan of beautiful countryside. And here in Panjin, where I've been staying at for the past few days, the city government has been promoting a switch to cleaner energy. Last year, natural gas became available in every single household of the Xingcun village where I'm at, and consequently, the air quality here has much improved. Prior to that, villagers had to burn straw or coal for heating and cooking, as you would imagine how that would create a huge amount of smoke. But now villagers say those days of heavy pollution are gone and the cooking has become never so easy. Another big change here is that 90% of the households in this village are now equipped with water heaters, and during winter time, they can heat up the entire house within just 15 minutes. But the switch wasn't easy because the idea of using a cleaner energy was hard to sell at first. As environmentally friendly as they are, programs like natural gas and water heaters are not well received at first because finally, financially they would cost villagers 1,000 yuan more than the old method, which is burning coal. So the government decided to subsidize each household by lowering the price from 4 to 3 yuan per cubic meter, which saves them about a third of the cost. And also, the cost of installing a water heater has been made cheaper as well. Depending on the annual income of each household, the government subsidized them with different amounts. So these examples give you an idea of how much effort the local government has made to make these villages greener. Pandan.
Well, Huia, what about the rural economy? During transition period, it's not always easy to keep the economy at a high level.
Yes, the government has also developed this program called village tourism to boost the rural economy. So here in Xinchun village, 6 households in total are now supplementing their income by turning their homes into guest houses for tourists who want an authentic village experience. So this family I've interviewed told me that they used to run this restaurant in town, but decided to give that up last year and operate a guest house instead, so that they wouldn't have to pay for labor or rent anymore. And the government helped them refurbish rooms for free, and now they make about 40,000 yuan a year more than before. But it's worth noting that the local government is taking this one step at a time. Right now, the county government is still experimenting the program with several households here, just to see whether it will work out for the entire village to run this guest house business. But certainly, combining agriculture and tourism is on the agenda, as it is one practical way to improve villages' livelihood. And for ordinary people here in Panjin, the increase of their income will always be their top concerns. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Cui Huiyao in the northeastern Chinese city of Panjin. For more insight into all those crucial topics, let's talk to our current affairs commentator, Mr. Li Yong. Well, Mr. Li, just as our reporters mentioned, many challenges ahead.
Yeah.
But a widely shared consensus is that things are improving.
Yeah.
People's livelihood is getting better. So what the Communist Party of China has done right in the past 5 years regarding people's livelihood?
You know, it's really difficult to give a short summary of it, because, you know, a lot of things has been done. And the mention of these improvement of people's livelihood, first, people's income has increased, right? And the availability of different kinds of goods, products have increased.
Especially public goods, if you consider the topics of this morning's upcoming press conference.
Yes, public goods, that is going to be, I think this is the job of those ministries that are going to attend the press conference. For example, the civil affairs, you know, they have increased 10%, over 10% of their social assistance, meaning the, you know, the kind of money paid to the disadvantaged people. Okay, in terms of a subsistence allowance, and in terms of taking care of elderly people, you know, the number of beds per 1,000 elder people has increased to, you know, nearly 35 beds. But of course, you know, this is not really enough in terms of the provision of public services by the government, and this is going to involve, I think, in the future, probably, you know, the input of other investors.
Since you just mentioned the taking care of senior citizens,
Yeah.
China is facing ever a severe problem of aging society, and this challenge is to be much bigger in the upcoming 10 years. Do you think the policy is ready and the budget is ready to deal with this challenge?
Yeah, I think, you know, the government has a kind of a budget constraint for sure, and this is also one of the reasons, you know, the government has been trying out, you know, different ways of establishing, for example, elderly care services. This includes the so-called famous model of PPP. So, you know, a lot of private...
And PPP stands for?
Private partnership. That is, you
Public-private partnership.
Public-private partnership. This actually has been tried, and there are also attempts to attract foreign investment, introducing, you know, the Western, for example, experiences in terms of, you know, providing, you know, the elderly care services. So in the next 5 years. I believe the government will increase input, investment, but at the same time, I think there will be more private investment involvement, in this area to make sure that the increasing number of elderly people will be taken care of, quite well. Yeah.
So you're quite optimistic about solving this problem?
Yes, I'm quite optimistic because especially the involvement of private investors into it. They are going to provide elder care services of different kinds, of different levels, and different service scopes. So that will be able to meet the demand and requirements of different kind of elder people with different economic background.
And this also leads to a crucial question, talking about taking care of people's well-being, medical care, right? Because as our reporter Wang Hui just mentioned, she works in Beijing and her parents are in another city, thousands of kilometers away. Well, it's easy to travel, but it's not so easy to transfer the medical care to another city because usually now it's fixated in the place of residence. Do you think that will change in the near future from the report given to the Party Congress this time?
The medical, I should say, the medical care system has changed quite a bit in the past 5 years. First, the medical, for example, the medical expenses, going to the hospitals, for example, has been significantly reduced. And the fees being paid.
That's good news for nearly everyone in this country, right?
Yes, but at the same time, to encourage doctors to provide better services, their service fee has increased. And one more important measure is that the medical expenses can be reimbursed across different regions, which was impossible before that. So that is very important. Okay, and that will provide a lot of convenience and actually facilitated, the medical services, and the current problem seems to be that, the medical services are not evenly, or quality medical services not evenly distributed. For example, in the first-tier cities, the best doctors are all, working in the hospitals of the first-tier cities, especially in cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and those hospitals actually have attracted patients from all over the country. So this is a kind of a challenge. I think probably the government will need to make more effort to make sure that
it's better distributed all around the country, in both urban and rural areas.
Exactly,
so talking about universal coverage of medical care in China, what about rural areas? Do you think farmers in rural areas have benefited from this changing system?
Yes. Before, I think, probably 5 years ago, the government had been trying to change the positions of the rural residents, most of whom were not covered by the medical care schemes. And recently, the government has been making effort to make sure that those farmers, peasants, are properly taken care of, especially when they are having kind of what they call a major disease or operations, and that is going to, put a lot of economic pressure on the families, and many of whom, returned to poverty simply because of the, of the disease they had, or the, the major operations, surgery operations they had. So, a vast majority of those farmers have been covered, and they are...
Well, Mr. Li, let's cross live to the press conference.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get some good answers to all those crucial issues.
女士们、先生们、记者朋友们，上午好！
Ladies and
欢迎
gentlemen,
大家出
friends
席
from the press,
19大
good
新闻
morning.
中心
Welcome
第5场
to the
记者招
fifth
待会。今
press
天我们
conference
很高兴
of the
请来
center
了
of the 19th
教育
CPC
部
National
党组书
Congress.
记
Today we are very glad to have with us Mr. Chen Baoshen, Party Secretary and
民政
Minister
部
of the
党
Ministry
组书记、
of Education, Mr. Ying Weiming,
部长王淑贤、
Party Secretary and Minister of the Ministry of Civil
党尹
Affairs,
卫民同志、
Mr. Huang Shuxian, Party Secretary and the Minister of the Ministry of Human Resources and
国家
Social
卫生计
Security,
生委党组书记
Mr. Wang Menghui,
李斌同志，
Party Secretary and the Minister of the Ministry of Urban Rural Development
保障改
and
善
Housing,
民生有
and
关情况，
Madam Li
并
Bing,
回答记者们
Chairman of the
关心的
National Health and Family
下
Planning
面呢
Commission.
先
They will
请
brief
陈
you
老师
on the meeting people's new expectations and ensuring and improving people's well-being. Now, Minister Chen, you have the floor.
首先啊，
Ladies and gentlemen, friends
我
from
代
the
表
press,
我们教育
good
系
morning.
统
First of all, on behalf
全
of
体教育工作者
all the staff
向
and
我
employees of
长
the
期以来
educational
关
sector
心
of
爱
China,
护支持
I wish to say a big
教
thank
育
you
事业发
to
展
all of those who
记者
have
朋友们
cared for and
表示衷心
supported
感
the
谢。
development of education in China, and
个
also
教育啊
thank those journalists
是非常重要的
who have been
民生
following
工程。
education closely.
党
Education
的
is
18大
an
以来，
important
我们
project
国家的
relating
教育
to
事业
people's
有了
livelihood.
很大的发展。
And since reform and opening up, education in
习近平总书记
China
啊，
has been developing
在
rapidly.
报告中
In
对
his
18大以来教育发展，
report delivered
给予
to
了
the
充分
19th
肯定。
CPC National
他说
Congress,
教育事业
General Secretary Xi
全面
Jinping fully recognized the
中西
progress
部和
being
农
made
村
in
教育
China in education. He
成
emphasized
效显著。
that all-round
发展
progress has
有
been
很
made
显
in
著
the
的
development of education
这
with
两句话
remarkable advances
前面一
made
个
in
是
the
如此
central and
判断
western regions and
后
in
边
rural
一句话
areas.
呢讲的补
The
短
first
板
comment was an overall judgment,
这个
and the
政
second
策
part
倾斜
was
的
what we
重
have been doing in
两句话
shoring
加
up
起
weak
来
links by
高
offering
度概括
preferential
了我们
policies.
18大以来的教
And
育。
these
教
comments
育战线呢，
have
同志们听
highlighted
到
what we
这
have
个
achieved in
判
education
断
since the
和评
18th
价后
CPC
很受
National
鼓舞。
Congress, and we are all
那么这
quite
个变
inspired
化
and encouraged
表现在什么方面
by
呢？
this comment and
我看是
evaluation.
两几点。
And I think this
一是这5
is
年
reflected in the following
是
areas.
教育事业中
Over
国
the
特
past
色
5 years, we have seen
最鲜明的
education in China gaining more distinct
这5
Chinese
年呢，我们坚
features.
持和加强
We
党
have
对教育
upheld
的
and
领导
strengthened party leadership
引导
on
教育战
education
线牢固树立，
and encouraged employees in the education sector
加强和改进思
to
想
foster
共同
political consciousness in
大
4
力
areas,
弘扬社会主义核心价值观。
vigorously cultivate
这
and
个
promote
作为一个
socialist core
基础性的工
values.
程来对
This is a fundamental work that we
引
have
导
been
教育我们
doing.
的学生啊，
We also
树立正确
encourage
的
our
历史
students to formulate a correct vision on history, on the nation, on their country,
就是
and
要
on
打
culture.
牢
The
增
purpose
强做中国人的骨
is
气
to ensure that all people will be more proud
方面有
of being Chinese. This is
第
the
二点
work
呢，就是这
that we
5
have been
年
doing. Second, over the
是
past 5 years,
教育现代化
we have
加
seen
速推进。
education
我给
modernization
大家报3个方面的数，
speeding up.
一个是
I'll
教
share
育的
with
保
you
障
some
条件。
statistics. First, with regard
我们
to
5年时间用于
the
教育的
financial
投入
resources on
由2万
education.
元啊，突破了3万元大关。去年我们达到38900亿元。
Over the
直
past
逼
5
4万
years,
元。
we have seen fiscal
我们国家的
spending
教
on
育投入
education
是
up
2012
from
年
2 trillion RMB yuan
这个
to 3.8
占
trillion
国内
RMB
生产
yuan
总值的比
last
重
year.
第一次
And for the
达
first
到
time,
4%。这5年一
the
直坚持，
fiscal spending on
这是给
education
大家报一下。
reached
第二个呢，
4%
就是
of GDP
我们这
in
个
2011, and
各级各类学校啊，
that
这个
is what we have been
宽网的
doing
接
over
入
the past 5
5
years.
年前就是20多，
Broadband access
现在多少呢？90%多。
schools cover over
第三个呢，就
90%
是
of
教
the
育系统
learning
啊
institutions.
取得的重大科研成果，获国家3大
And we
奖的
have
比例，这5
Also
年一直稳定在2/3以上。
ensured that over 2/3 of the research
这就为
results done
我们这
by
个
educational institutions have won top prizes of the nation. All this has strongly underpinned the progress of education in China. And over the past 5 years, we have educated over 80 million personnel who are involved in the education sector. And we have ensured that we have a pool of human resources in the educational sector exceeding 130 million. All this has strongly supported the development of an innovative strategy for China's development. Over the past 5 years, we have seen people gaining a stronger sense of fulfillment and benefit in education. Let me also share with you some statistics. Over the past 5 years, we have advocated a strategy of leaving no one behind in education. We are caring more about those people living in poor areas, rural areas, and ethnic minority regions. Over the past 5 years, no student become a dropout because of their family conditions. This is a target that we have basically achieved. Over 90% of students or children with a disability can now have school access, including those with hearing or visual impairments. This is also an outstanding achievement. And for those children whose parents have moved to cities to find jobs, those children can also go to public schools at places where their parents work for. They can also attend college entrance examinations in the same places. In 2017, over 150,000 such students have attended college entrance examination at the places where their parents work for, which is 36 times compared with 5 years ago. We have also established an assistance system covering the entire process from preschool education to universities. So for those students from underprivileged families, they can attend schools with support from the government. A student from Gansu province and another student from Hebei province have been enrolled by Tsinghua University thanks to this support. Over the past 5 years, we have also seen Chinese education gaining more international influence and rising international standing. China has set up cooperative cultural cooperation with 180 countries and signed agreement on mutual recognition of educational diploma with 47 countries. So Chinese educational diploma are now recognized by a growing number of countries. With over 140 countries, we have built 516 Confucius institutes and over 2,000 Confucius classrooms in secondary schools and primary schools, which play an important role in promoting the learning of Mandarin Chinese language. Now, China has already become the third largest destination for foreign students globally and the top destination in Asia. Finally, we have also seen progress made in the reform of the education sector. Some landmark and flagship education reform programs are now in place, and we have also seen the basic framework for education reform in place. Now we are engaging in full implementation of relevant strategies. For example, take entrance examination reform. For example, progress are made in a number of municipalities, including Beijing and Shanghai. So these are the 5 features over the past 5 years, according to the report to the 19th CPC National Congress. As the socialism with Chinese characteristics enters a new era, the principal contradiction in China now is a contradiction between unbalanced and inadequate development and the ever-growing need of our people for a better life. So an important task for us is to look to the matters relating to unbalanced and inadequate development in the education sector. We will seize the main contradictions, respond to our people's new expectation on education, to put into action the guiding principles of this Congress, and to develop education that our people are satisfied with. Thank you.
Minister Huang, please. Friends from the press, let me give you a brief introduction on civil affairs work. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core attached great importance to people's well-being and civil affairs work and made a series of major policies and plans. Civil affairs departments at all levels studied carefully the thinking for socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era adopted by General Secretary Xi Jinping, and the principle of always put people first in civil affairs, and made vigorous efforts to reform and innovate civil affairs work and focus on strengthening the foundation work of civil affairs and comprehensively implement the decisions made by the Central Committee and the State Council. Important progress has been made in improving people's well-being, especially for those with severe difficulties. First is the effective role of social assistance in meeting people's basic needs. The subsistence system in urban and rural areas achieved full coverage, and the temporary assistance system was comprehensively established. All county-level governments have established the coordinative mechanisms for the living support for people with difficulties, headed by government leaders. Rural subsistence systems are connected with poverty alleviation work. The standard for assistance in urban and rural areas were raised by 59% and 97% respectively, with a total spending of 731.7 billion yuan. Nearly 60,000 subsistence receivers and people with severe difficulties have effective guarantee for their basic living. Second is efficient and orderly treatment of natural disasters. We earnestly implement General Secretary Xi Jinping's remarks featuring the main role of prevention, the combination of prevention, relief, and rescue, and comprehensive effort to improve capacity building in disaster relief. We have comprehensively enhanced our capacity in preventing and in disaster prevention and relief. We launched 117 emergency responses at the national level, issued 45.4 billion yuan in disaster relief funding, helping 350 million person times and relocating 45 million person times affected by disaster. This has promoted the social stability and post-disaster reconstruction in the affected areas. Third is accelerated progress in old age care services. We comprehensively amended and enforced the law for the protection of rights and interests of the elderly, comprehensively opening up the old age service market, improving quality for nursery homes, implementing projects for old age cares, promoting development of old age welfare during the 13th five-year plan period, and adopting a series of major policies, regulations, and laws in the establishment of old age care system. The allowance system for senior citizens with old age, living difficulties, and without living abilities are now spread out. We have now 28,000 old age care institutions with nearly 7 million beds registered in the world. And the community and in-home old age care services now cover all urban communities and over 50 rural communities. Fourth is a better developed system for social benefit and children's protection. The allowance system for people with disabilities in financial difficulties and severe disabilities is now comprehensively established, benefiting over 10 million people with disabilities respectively. We are comprehensively establishing the system for the protection and care for left-behind children in rural areas, enhancing the protection for children with difficulties, and including nearly 500,000 orphans and HIV/AIDS affected children into government support. Fifth is the improved entitlements for military personnel. Servicemen with disabilities, bereaved military families, and retired Red Army veterans now have better entitlements, and we have coordinated the standards for allowance standards for bereaved military families. Better jobs are now provided for retired servicemen, and we are comprehensively encouraging retired military personnel to find jobs and start up businesses on their own. And the lawful rights and interests for entitled groups are now better upheld. Sixth is the rapid development of the endeavor of charity and volunteering. We promulgated and enforced the charity law and voluntary service regulation. Every year there is over 50 billion yuan of social donation. We have a total number of 330,000 registered social workers with enhanced strength for social workers and volunteers. We have now nearly 57 million volunteers and nearly 390,000 voluntary groups. We have also projects like the Warmness in Winter projects. Steady progress has been made in the land-saving adaptive burial and green burial. Steady progress was also made in improving administrative zoning. So that's all for my briefing. Thank you.
Now, Minister Ying. Good morning, friends from the press. I'm very glad to attend today's press conference, and I thank you for your long-term interest in and support to the work of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security. Employment and Social Security has a direct bearing on people's well-being. It has attracted wide social attention. In the report to the 19th CPC National Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping also fully recognized the progress made in the past 5 years. He pointed out that in the past 5 years, employment situation has improved. And here are some of the indicators. First, we have created over 65 million jobs, which means that we have addressed the job needs for over 65 million people, the majority of which are young people. Also, over the 5 years, we have resettled those 25 million laid-off workers. Also, in these 5 years, we have created jobs for the 6.5 million people living in underprivileged conditions. And we have also ensured that at least one person of those families with zero employment are now able to have access to at least a job. We have also resettled nearly 1 million employees in the process of economic restructuring.
农村建档立卡困难人员的
We have also
转移就业问题。
reallocated 4.7 million
在这个报告
rural
当中
people
对就业工
who
作
are
得
registered
到持续
poor
改善。
in the
我
rural
觉得上述
areas.
这个
So
几个
these
数
are the
据
figures
可以充分的这个表明。
showing
那么
progress
过去的
made
这
in the
个
field
5
of
年就业工作呢，
employment in the past 5
这个是
years,
在经
as
济
mentioned
增速放缓、
by General
结构
Secretary
调
Xi.
整深化、
This
劳动
5
力高位
years,
运行的情况
we
下
have seen
取得的，
the slowdown of
成为经济
economic
社会
growth,
发展的一个亮点。这个
and
对
it has
经济
become
发
a
展起到
highlight
了
for
基本的
economic
支撑作用。
growth, underpinning
那么在社会
the
保障
overall
方面，
economic growth in
习
China.
近平
In
总书
terms
记
of
指出，
social security's
过
work,
去5年社会保障体
General
系
Secretary Xi
基本建
pointed
立。
out that we have
那么我
basically
觉得呢，也可
established
以
a
从这么
social
3个方
security
面
network
来看。
in China.
第一呢，就是
And
制
this
度
is
体
shown
系
in the following
在不
3
断地
aspects.
完
First,
善。
we have been
过去5
improving the
年，
overall
我们建立
institutions.
了这
In
个
these
统一
5
的
years,
城
we
乡
have
居
set
民
up
的
a
养老保险制度。
consistent
我们推
health
进
care
了
and
机关
old
事业
age
单
care
位养
system
老保险制度
for
的改
rural
革，
and
也就是
non-working
说，解
urban
决了过去
residents.
大家
We have also
长期关注
reformed
的双轨
the
制的
pension system for employees of party and
同时，
government offices as
我
well as
们
public
深化医
institutions,
疗保险
unifying
制度的
relevant
改革，
pension systems.
特别是
We
在
have also
解决
deepened relevant
异地就医
institutional
直接结算方
reforms,
面，
in
我们
particular
取得了
offering more
突破性的
convenient
进展。
conditions
当然还有其
to
他一些
ensure that
制度的
medical
建设。
expenses can be
第二个
settled
方面呢，就是
directly
覆盖
at
这
places
个
where
人
they
群
are
迅速
incurred.
的扩大。
So these
可以说，我
have
们建
shown
立起了世
progress
界上
made.
最大的社会保障的
We have
安全
also
网络。
built the world's
现在
largest
这个
social
养老保
security
险，我
network
们覆盖了
in the world,
超过了9亿人。
covering
养老
over
保险呢，
900
这个
million
不是全面
people
覆
in
盖，
terms of
它是法定人
the
群全覆盖。
elderly
也就是说，
care.
要扣除学龄前的儿童和在校的学生，说大
We
数
have
呢
to
应该覆
deduct
盖10亿人。
those
我们现在
population
超过了9亿人，也就是说覆盖
school
率
age population,
超过了90%。
which means that we have
在一个
already
医疗保
ensured
险，
that
我
over
们现在的覆
90%
盖率
of
呢
the
已经
people
超
are
过了
covered
13亿，
by old age care.
可以说是已经实现了
And for the health
全民
care
的
insurance
医保。
system, it now
在
covers
这个
over
一个13亿多人口的发展中的
1.3
国家，
billion people.
能够在基
To
本养老
achieve this progress
和基
in
本
a
医疗
country with a
方面，
population of
覆盖面能够做得这么
1.3
大，
billion, to ensure
为
that
世
the
界
coverage is
所
so
赞
wide
叹。
in terms of
所以
old
在
age
去
care
年底，
and
世界社会保障协
healthcare
会召
insurance.
开的这个
This is
大会上，
a progress
特别
that
受予
is
中国
fully
政府
recognized by the
社会保
international
障杰
community.
出
That
成
was
就奖，
also why the Chinese
主要是
government
对中国
has
政府
won outstanding
在
award last year
社会保障扩面方面所取得的成就给予
from the
充分
international
肯定。
community, fully
这不仅
recognizing
是在
what we
发展
have
中国家，
achieved in
在发
terms
达
of
国家
improving the social
也是
security
很难
system
做到
and
的。
building a
第
stronger
三个方
old
面
age
呢，
care system.
就是待遇水
This
平稳步提
is
高
a。hard-won
这几年
progress
我们的基本养老保险
even for developed
标准
countries,
年年
not
提高。
let alone
现
for
在城镇
developing
职工
countries.
基本养老保险这个月
We have
平均
improved
水平已经
the
超过了
basic old
2300
age
元。
care
城乡
insurance
居民
for
基
employees
本养老保险
exceeding
这个水平呢已经超过
2.3 thousand
120
yuan per month.
所以这个待遇水平也在稳步的提高。当然，在这个就业和社会保障方面呢，
120
还面临着很
RMB
多的问
yuan
题。
for
正像
rural
主席指出
workers.
的，
Of course,
其
we
中在
also
就业
face
方面
many
还面临着
problems
不
to
少
be
的困
tackled.
难。
For example,
在社会
our
保障方
people
面
still
呢，
face
也还面临
difficulties
着
in
严
terms
峻的
of
挑战。
employment
下一步呢，我
as
们
well
要
as
认真地贯彻
challenges
落
in
实
terms of the
这个
social
党的
security
19大
network.
报告的精神。
In the years
特别
ahead,
是
we will
对就
put
业提
into
出了
practice
实
the
现更加
guidelines
充
of
分、
the report
更高质量的
2019
这个
CPC
就业。
Congress to
对社会
ensure
保障
fuller
提出了
employment and
按照
create
这个
better quality
兜底线、
jobs.
织密网、
We
建机制
will
的要求，
also
要
improve
全面地建
relevant
成
systems,
覆盖全
provide
民、城乡统筹、
basic
权责
cushion
清
for
晰、
our
保
people,
障适度、可持续的
and
这
to
个社会
build
多层次的
an
社会保障体系。
appropriately
所以我们会认真的落实
insured
在
and
原来的基础
sustainable
上，
network.
把就业和
and we will deliver a better job in terms of employment and the social security to ensure that our people will have a better sense of fulfillment. Thank you.
Minister Wang, please. Friends from the press, good morning. Let me give you a concise briefing on China's housing and urban-rural development situation. Since the 18th Party Congress, under the strong leadership of the CPC Steering Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, housing and urban-rural development sector has seen outstanding accomplishments in its reform and growth. And particular progress has been made in ensuring improving people's livelihood. First, outstanding achievements were made in housing support, and the living conditions for around 80 million people in need were upgraded. General Secretary Xi Jinping pointed out that accelerating the development of housing support and housing supply system is an important task in meeting the people's basic need for housing and ensuring that all people have access to housing. Over the past 5 years, vigorous efforts have been made in advancing the renovation of rundown area housing. Over 60 million residents moved into apartment buildings. The supply of public rental housing was greatly increased, accommodating more than 19 million people in need of housing. Housing strain for new citizens were lessened, and the living conditions for urban low-income households were improved substantially. Access to housing is guaranteed for almost all urban households on subsistence allowances and urban low-income families. Second, obvious effects were seen in real estate regulation, and general real estate market remained stable. We uphold the principle of houses are for living in, not for speculation, adopted category-based and city-specific policies, and enforced accountability systems for local governments. Currently, the rise of newly built commercial housing prices in first-tier cities and some popular second-tier cities dropped compared with the same period of last year, while the housing price in third-tier and fourth-tier cities tends to become stable. We are also making rental housing pilot projects in 12 large and medium cities, and the exploration to develop shared ownership housing projects in Beijing and Shanghai was encouraged. We are also accelerating the formulation for long-term real estate development mechanism, and efforts were also made to speed up the legislation for rental housing laws. The real estate management has shown ongoing effects. Third, continued advances were made in urban planning reform, and the transformation in urban development models was stepped up. We earnestly implement General Secretary Xi Jinping's important remarks and instructions on urban planning and advance reform and innovation in urban planning. While approaching the right way, the strategic positioning, spatial layout, and element allocating, we insisted on integrated urban-rural development and delineated urban ecological projection red lines and development boundaries on the basis of main function region strategy system. We encouraged governments to integrate urban plans into one and follow one single blueprint to the very end. We put new development concepts into practice, focused on the implementation of urban plans, and stepped up urban transformation. We fully implement urban design, strengthened the preservation of historical architecture, and pressed ahead with ecological and city rehabilitation. With these efforts, city environment has been improved constantly, and urban public services have been also enhanced. Fourthly, urban development was steadily improved, and urban environment become more suitable for living. Over the past 5 years, we increased 55.4 thousand kilometers of urban roads and 1,600 kilometers of city commute railway, 458,000 hectares of urban green lands, and the treatment ratio for urban sewage reached 92.5%, which was up by 7 percentage points. 1,600 kilometers of sewer corridors were established in our urban sewer network. So it can be said that in housing and rural-urban development, there are also many problems and difficulties. In particular, people are following very closely the housing support for the people. In the next step, we will act in line with General Secretary Xi Jinping's important instruction in the report to the 19th National Congress of the CPC. In particular, General Secretary Xi Jinping's new thoughts on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era will continue to make new contribution to the realization of the Chinese dream of great national renewal.
Minister Li. Good morning, friends from the press. Thank you for your interest in China's medicine and healthcare development. There's no moderately prosperous society without a healthy population. Since the 18th National Congress of the CPC, the Central Party leadership, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, has set up a Healthy China initiative with a people-centered approach and outlined the significance, strategies, and targets for this initiative. This has opened a new journey for Healthy China. Thanks to our efforts over the past 5 years, we have seen fast progress in people's health and healthcare services, as outlined by President Xi in his report. Here are some of the highlights. First, we have made big progress in the reform of the medicine healthcare system. We have laid the groundwork for building a distinctively Chinese system for providing basic healthcare. We have built a tiered medical services system with preferential treatment given to primary level hospitals. 80% of the population can have access to clinics within 15 minutes. The contracted family doctor service covers 430 million people. And now people can have high-standard medical services close to their home thanks to the development of medical treatment partnership systems, including medical consortium and telemedicine. 82.5% of the treatment diagnosis can be done within the counties. We have also abolished the old mechanism of funding hospitals with profits from overpriced drugs, which has been in place for 6 decades. Now, the new operation system is more non-profit, proactive, and sustainable. Over 57% of the hospitals are now privately run, and we are also addressing problems relating to the shortage of drugs, in particular those low-cost drugs and children's drugs. We have also set up a basic medical care system, including assistance for major diseases and chronic diseases as well. We are also improving the system within which medical expenses can be settled off-site. We are also reducing the out-of-pocket health payment. It dropped from 40.4% in 2008 to 30%, lowest level in 2 decades. Second, new progress was made in the overall public health system. We are paying more attention to prevention and expanded the service of basic public health system for 14 categories. The infectious rate of major infectious diseases went down. We are implementing the policy of allowing all couples to have 2 children, increasing services, in particular in the obstetric and pediatric sectors, and providing all entire process medical care services. For childbirth, we have significantly reduced both maternal fatality rate and infant fatality rate, achieving the WHO target ahead of schedule. We are building a healthy Silk Road, and we have won the battle of assisting African countries in fighting Ebola without any infection among our medical staff. playing the role of a responsible major country. Thirdly, we have significantly improved the quality of health services. We have launched campaigns in the past 3 years, improved the overall supply quality and security of blood. We have launched an antimicrobial resistance national action and significantly reduced the use of antibiotics. We are bringing out the important role of both Chinese medicine and Western medicine. We have made breakthroughs in certain key technologies, achieved big results in improving the overall treatment and diagnosis services. We have treated 3.6 million patients in a targeted manner, depending on their specific conditions and diseases. For the past 5 years, we have seen the biggest input in the health industry, which ensured the rapid progress in this sector and more benefits to our people. The international community also recognized China as a country that has made the fastest development in terms of improving its overall health sector. This is achieved thanks to the leadership of General Secretary Xi as the core of the CPC Central Committee. It is also thanks to the guidance of the Xi Jinping thought of socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era. It is also thanks to our firm commitment to the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics. President Xi pointed out in his report that a healthy population is a key mark of a prosperous nation and a strong country. We will continue to promote the Healthy China initiative. We will be guided by the thought of Chinese socialism in the new era, bear in mind our mission and our aspiration, and provide around-the-clock services to our people so that the entire Chinese population will embrace a new era of socialism with Chinese characteristics in a more healthier manner. Thank you. Now the floor is open for questions. Please identify yourself before raising your questions. Thank you.
人民网记者提问，我的问题是提给黄部长的。在打赢脱贫攻坚战中，民政部门在健全社会救助保障体系、发挥兜底保障作用方面开展了哪些工作？效果如何？谢谢。
I'm with the people.com.cn. My question goes to Minister Huang. In the battle against poverty, what have been done by the civil affairs departments in terms of building up social assistance systems and ensuring help to those in need? And what are the achievements made in this regard? Thank you.
好，谢谢这位记者朋友提问。
Thank you for your question.
非常愿意回答你提的
I
问
would
题。
be more than happy to answer this
社会
question.
救助是民生保障和扶贫攻坚的
Social
一道安全
is
网，
the last
把这道
safety
网
net for
扁灭
people's
治牢
well-being and for poverty
是我们民政部
alleviation.
门
To make this
重大的
safety
使
net
命
more closely
在
knit
扶贫
is
攻
an
坚
important
战略
mission
当中重要
of civil affairs departments and an important
党的18大以
responsibility
来
in our poverty
在习近
alleviation
平
work
同志
since
推行的
18th
党
Party
中央的
Congress
坚强
under
领
the
导
strong
下
leadership of
在这
Central
方面
Committee with
我们
Comrade
主要
Xi
做到3
Jinping.
个方面的
At its core, we have done important work in mainly 3 areas. First is to comprehensively improve the system of assistance
国务院
support.
颁布了
The State Council
社会救
promulgated
助暂
the
行条例，
temporary
暂
methods
行办
for
法
social assistance,
明确了
which laid out
8加1
the
的
8
社会救
plus
助
1
体系，
social assistance system.
全面建立
We
了
comprehensively
临时救助制
established the temporary assistance system
全面推开重特
and
大
spread
疾
out
病医疗
the
救助，
assistance for major and
统筹
serious
城
diseases.
乡特困人
We
员
coordinate
救助供
the
养制
assistance and support system for people in
推进
severe difficulties in rural and
低保
urban
制度
areas.
与
We
扶贫
advance
开发
the
政策的
effective
衔接，
connection between assistance system
全
and
面
poverty
建立了
alleviation
困
policies.
难残疾
We
人
comprehensively
生活补贴
establish the allowance system for people with disabilities for their living costs and people with severe difficulties. We strengthened the support for the care and protection for left-behind children in rural areas and children in severe difficulties. We advanced the reform for the system and institutions for disaster relief. We encourage county-level governments to comprehensively establish the coordinative mechanism for the support for people in difficulties. By improving such policies and measures, we are further enhancing the support network for people in severe need to meet their basic needs. Second is to steadily improve the level of assistance and support. The subsistence standard in urban and rural areas in China have been growing by 10.7% and 16% respectively, which means in urban areas it's 10.7% annually, and in rural areas it's 16% annually on average. The collective and individual support standard for people in severe difficulties in rural areas have grown by 13.7% and 14.7% respectively. The rural subsistence standard, which is 4,079 yuan per year, is already higher than the national poverty line, which is 2,952 yuan per year. The number of counties with subsistence standard lower than the poverty standard has dropped from 1,521 in 2015 to 72 currently, which means there are still 72 counties where the subsistence level is lower than the national poverty line. Governments at all levels spent over 180 billion yuan in 2012 for social assistance. Now the number is nearly 250 billion yuan in 2016. In this year, we have also significantly raised the central assistance standard for the emergency assistance during major natural disasters, the transitional living cost, and the subsidy for damaged houses. Third, we kept improving the management for assistance and support. We worked with relevant departments to carry out the information cross-checking for registered vehicles, bank deposits, securities and assets, and houses to improve the accuracy for the identification of assistance receivers to make our assistance more targeted and more accurate. At neighborhood, village, and township levels, we established one-stop windows for the convenience of the people. We strengthened the assessment for performance, funding monitoring, and inspection for social assistance, imposed stringent punishment for violations against the lawful rights and interests of the people, especially the people with severe difficulties, to ensure fairness and equity in our social assistance work. In the next step, we will earnestly implement the spirit of the 19th National Congress of the CPC, acting in line with the Central Committee's principle of meeting the basic line, highlighting focuses and meeting our preset goals. We will continue to improve our management levels and better with the network of social assistance and have a better connection between social assistance and poverty alleviation, and to better meet people's living needs. Thank you.
这样吧，对，由排那位男士吧。
感谢主持人。中国日报和中国日报网记者提问。那么我的问题是提给尹部长的。 您刚才也说了呢，在过去几年当中，中国经济的这个增速有所放缓，但是我们的劳动力的总量压力还是比较大的。那么，请问我们是怎么做到在这个就业的工作当中保持总体稳定的？第二个问题是，请问19大报告对于今后的一个时期，就业工作做了哪些新的要求？谢谢。
I'm with China Daily. My question goes to Minister Ying of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security. As you said in the opening remarks, the Chinese economic growth rate has been moderated in recent years, while at the same time, every year we are seeing a big number of newcomers joining the labor force. So what has been the key to the maintenance of overall stability in employment, and what are the new tasks or requirements laid out in the report to the 19th Party Congress?
Well, thank you for your interest in employment. In my opening remarks, I have mentioned that over the past 5 years, China has maintained overall stability in terms of employment. And every year, we have been increasing over 13 million urban jobs. Both the surveyed and registered unemployment rate in urban areas stood at a low level. Considering that the economic growth has been slowing down, the total amount of newcomers in the labor market is still huge, and economic restructuring is facing heavier tasks. This is a hard-won achievement. Such progress has been able to underpin China's economic growth. The following are the main factors contributing to the progress that we have made. First, the Central Party leadership attaches great importance to the work of employment. President Xi pointed out clearly that employment is an eternal endeavor that affects the well-being of millions of households. This is an endeavor that we must focus on at all times. General Secretary Xi also inspected relevant work on employment for many times. We are implementing the Central Party strategy and urging the departments at all levels to seriously put into practice the overall strategy of the central government. Secondly, the Chinese economy has maintained a steady and healthy growth. Indeed, the growth speed of the economy has moderated somewhat, but it is still a medium to high growth rate. This has created a favorable environment for job creation, which means the precondition for job creation is still there. In addition, in the process of economic growth, China has also seen improvement or changes in its economic structure. In particular, the service sector has been significantly increased in terms of its proportion in the overall economy, contributing significantly to employment. In the 12th five-year period of time, with each 1 percentage point of economic growth, it contributes to 1.5 million jobs. In the 13th five-year plan period, each 1% of economic growth contributes to 1.8 million jobs. That is because the service sector contributes more to job creation compared with the industrial and agricultural sectors. Thirdly, reform in China has brought new dividends. Over the past 5 years, the government has been advocating streamlining administration, improving services. This helped improve the threshold for job creation. In particular, thanks to the reform of the business registration system, we have seen as many as 116,000 new business entities created every day, which was unimaginable in the past. This contributed greatly to employment. Fourthly, we have put in place a proactive employment policy. This is what we have been doing over the past few years, and through practice, we have also been improving relevant policies, making them more effective in contributing to job creation and encouraging business startups. The government has also put in place many preferential policies. In China, every year, the government expenditure supporting employment or business startups amounts to hundreds of billions of RMB yuan each year, and a significant amount of which comes from the central government. Finally, the large number of workforce has been actively involving in contributing to employment. Without their contribution, we cannot achieve what we have done. We have been implementing a proactive job creation policy. In the years ahead, we will act in line with the policies outlined in the report to 19th CPC Congress, which means that we need to improve not only the quantity, but also the quality of jobs. These are what we will be doing. First, we will continue to give top priority to employment and to advocate a proactive job policy. We will also combine or better balance the job creation policy with China's economic, financial, and other policies. In the process of economic growth, we will encourage more jobs, in particular higher quality jobs. Second, we will launch in a large-scale vocational and skills training to improve the capability of the workforce as well as their ability to transfer to other jobs. We will face two main contradictions in the future. First, the total amount is still exerting heavy pressure on us. We will work to build a moderately prosperous society in all respects in the next few years, and every year we will need to create over 15 million urban jobs every year. For these 15 million newcomers to the labor market, the majority of them are young students or college graduates. We know that the new college graduates will exceed 8 million next year, and this will stay true for a few years to come. We will also create jobs for those graduates from secondary vocational schools, as well as those graduates from secondary schools who choose not to go to universities or colleges. So this is heavy pressure on us in terms of the total amount. Secondly, the structural problem is still there. Both the employers and the job seekers are facing problems. In terms of the job seekers, including the college graduates, they want to find a high-quality job. The employers also face problems because, in particular, those frontline labor in the construction sectors. Well, to address these problems, we need to improve the overall competence of the workforce by improving the overall vocational and skills training programs. We'll also encourage business startups to facilitate employment. Over the past few years, we have seen a large number of college graduates, migrant workers, returnees from overseas to engage in starting their own businesses, which helped magnify the effect of job creation. We are providing provincial policies to them in terms of financing as well as business, as well as offices. Fourthly, we will uphold the rights and interests of the laborers, in particular their equal access to jobs. As the report pointed out, we need to remove those bottlenecks or barriers that block labor mobility and ensure that all the people can ensure that their potential is brought out through hard work. So this is a principle that we will adhere to in employment. Finally, we will offer high-quality public employment services, in particular those services based on internet, to ensure that all the people who are willing to enter the labor market will have access to government assistance and support in such a public employment service system. So all in all, employment in the years ahead will face challenges. However, we are confident that in the process of building a moderately prosperous society, in all respects, we will maintain employment stability to offer support to China's economic and social development. On the other hand, help ensure basic social harmony and stability. Thank you.
这样倒数第4排吧，对。旁边第2位，不是这边，哎，那位女士，对，你倒数第4排，你的左手，
中央人民广播电台记者，我这个问题呢是提给陈部长的。我们都知道，过去5年呢，整个中国教育的发展是非常飞速的。那么从微观来看呢，可能我周围的同学很多人到了婚育年龄，很多人的孩子要上幼儿园了，开始为入园怎么能上一个好幼儿园着急。那可能这样的焦虑会一直维持到他的全学段，甚至一直到高等教育。那么从宏观来看呢，我又看到这样一组数据，是说中国的教育现在在全世界达到了一个中等偏上的水平。那么您怎么看这样一个定位？另外呢，就是为了让更多的老百姓的孩子能够上好学，那教育部在未来有怎样的努力？谢谢。
With China National Radio, my question goes to Minister Chen of Education. In the past 5 years, education in China has enjoyed strong development, yet I still find many of my friends and colleagues worrying about the schooling of their children. While at the same time, I have also seen that internationally, China has reached medium-high level in terms of development of education. What does this mean for the general public, and what will the Ministry of Education do to further meet people's expectations about better education for their children?
好，谢谢你啊。
Thank you for your question, and I think you have seized the point which I wish to share with you. As I said previously, over the past 5 years, we have seen education making big progress in China. We have seen some all-round progress, all-round systemic progress being made, contributing to historical achievements. So China has achieved medium to high level in the world in terms of education. This means that we now have a bigger size, a stronger structure, a higher ranking, and a better quality, a bigger size. Each year we have about 260 million students. If we add the school-age children, that is 350 million, which is about 30 to 40 million more than the entire population of the United States. This is the big size, as I have talked about. The stronger structure. We have made big progress in restructuring the educational system. with better layouts regionally, and equity and quality. Better quality. We have a better capability of training human resources. We are delivering more achievements in terms of education-related science and research. Higher ranking. Globally speaking, education in China is now medium to high level. In terms of disciplines, some disciplines is already world-class, and some universities in China have already seen their overall ranking moving up globally. In 2016, the world media may have discovered that out of nowhere, the Chinese universities have seen their ranking moving upwards significantly. That was a result of years of endeavor in improving its education. So this is what we have achieved over the past few years. Having said that, I do not mean that education in China can fully meet people's needs. In the past, people want to have access to education. Now, people want to have access to quality education. So that is also a result of changing principal contradictions outlined by the report to the 19th CPC Congress. You mentioned that your colleagues are worrying about their children's access to kindergartens and high cost. And in the stage of compulsory education, people want to ensure that their students can go, that their children can go to quality schools. So they are choosing schools on a selective basis. Parents also want their children to have access to good secondary schools, including primary and senior ones. For those colleges and university entrance, students want to select good disciplines and go to better universities. So how to address these problems? According to the guidelines of the report to the 19th CPC Congress, the overall strategy is that we will improve education modernization and to ensure that our people are satisfied with our education. And in terms of the roadmap, we will develop well-rounded education in China, promote equity and quality, equitable and quality education, and to ensure that our young people, the young students, can enjoy well-rounded development and to be ready to take on the tasks. We will give more favorable policies to the rural areas, to the underprivileged regions, as well as to those people from poor families. We will give top priority to education. Second, we will also seek balanced development for education between urban and rural areas. Thirdly, we'll improve the vocational educational system and to combine the endeavors of the vocational education and ordinary education. We will also ensure that more students have access to higher education to help us avoid the middle income gap. Fifthly, we will advocate an atmosphere that respects the teacher. And number 6, we will also improve the assistance system to ensure that no student is left behind simply because they are from a poor family. And finally, we will build a lifelong learning education system and build a country good at learning and improve the overall competence of the Chinese people. So this is the overall structure for the work that we are going to do. If we have implemented these policies, we will be delivering true benefits to our people. So the benefits include the following. By 2020, the preschool education, the gross enrollment rate of preschool education will reach 85% by 2020, compared with 77% at this stage. And the non-profit kindergartens will account for 86% of the total by 2020. Second, in terms of compulsory education, we will seek balanced development, avoid the selective entrance to primary schools, and to control the size of classes. And we will also reduce the burden of primary school students. In particular, see to it that their off-campus burden will no longer be increased. In the senior secondary stage, we are also launching a battle. By 2020, the gross enrollment rate will be higher than 90%. And by 2020, the gross enrollment rate of colleges or universities will reach 50% instead of 42% at this stage. That will mean that the access to senior secondary education will be universally available. We will also improve the overall competence and the skills of the teachers, which is very important for the education on the next generation. Therefore, we will look into and put in place some guiding principles as well as supporting policies to improve the overall competence of the teachers and to further invigorate them in better doing their jobs. So these are the specific policies to implement the guiding principles of the report. Thank you.
谢谢，我是中央电视台中国国际电视台的记者。我们看到在19大报告当中啊，说到保障和改善民生啊，有一句话就是要幼有所育，学有所教，老有所得，病有所医，老有所养，住有所居，弱有所扶。那么应该说这句话跟台上的几位部长都有关系哈，也关系到我们民生的方方面面。不知道在各位部长看来啊，在这几方面最难啃的硬骨头分别是什么？另外一个，我们也看到在19大报告当中，还是提出了有多项具体的民生的目标。那么这些目标当中啊，有哪些目标是短期内就可以变成现实的？另外，对于我们老百姓来说，还有哪一些民生红包是现在就可以期待的？谢谢。
With CCTV and CGTN, we have seen in the 19th Party Congress report a sentence, I quote, "We should make steady progress in ensuring people's access to childcare, education, employment, medical services, elderly care, housing, and social assistance," unquote. And this sentence, I believe, has something to do with all the 5 ministers. Could you please tell us what will be the most difficult tasks in these areas? What progress or what specific achievements can people expect in the improvement of their living standards in the coming years? Thank you.
我先说吧。
Well,
您刚才提这个问题啊。
To begin with, I think your question is also concerned with
这两个问题和教育有关。
my department.
至于你说这个硬骨头啊
access to preschool education
我这有3个硬骨头。
and to schools. So here are some of the thornier issues that I face with. The first one, we will try to ensure that the gross enrollment rate of 3-year preschool education will reach 85%, and over 80% of the kindergartens will be non-profit. So this will be a thorny issue for us. Even if we achieve these two targets, the poor access to preschool education and the heavy cost is still something that we have to tackle with, because we now allow all couples to have 2 children, which means that the population will grow by additional 3 million each year. The second most thorny issue is to ensure that no students will become a dropout at the compulsory education stage. This is a difficult task, in particular in the poor areas as well as areas inhabited by ethnic minorities, because for some of the students there, they have voluntarily become a dropout. Therefore, we must ensure that the students there have the interest in continuing their education, and to move the coverage ratio of compulsory education from 92% to 95%. By 2020, we will also establish a college entrance examination system with Chinese characteristics. We have already been launching some pilot projects in Shanghai, Beijing, Zhejiang. Some provinces will follow suit, and that will also require more policies and measures in terms of education. So these are the 3 most thorny issues for me. On access to medical services and how to tackle this problem, according to the report to the 19th CPC National Congress, there have been some specific requirements on launching a Healthy China initiative. In order to implement this strategy, we need to tackle the following. The main problem is to address those health-related issues as a result of the changing principal contradiction. Put it another way, people are having new needs and aspirations for health services. And on the other hand, the support or supply of medical services is still inadequate or unbalanced. So there is still contradiction between these 2 aspects. As you know, the majority of resources are focused in economically advanced regions in China and major cities. We have to tackle such an imbalance by deepening the reform of the medicine and healthcare system, establish a tiered system as well as a new partnership system of medical institutions to ensure that more resources will go to primary level clinics or hospitals, and to ensure that more resources will be available in those relatively backward areas. We will continue to develop partnership programs and pairing projects to support those poor areas as well as areas inhabited by ethnic minorities, give more support to assisting the Xinjiang and other inland areas. And so far, we have already covered 820 poor counties through such partnership programs. We will also educate and train those medical professionals as well as college students for those underdeveloped areas, so as to enlarge the pool of human resources in the medical sector in these areas. We will also support them through reform measures so that those people will stay in those areas and be willing to provide better medical services to people there. So we have also prepared some benefits to deliver to our people. We will continue to increase input to well-being and to increase the number of contracted doctors contracted family doctors. Now, the coverage is 430 million. We will try to see that number go up and try to ensure that those families with chronic disease patients and elderly people will see their needs better taken care of. We will also promote the development of appointment, treatment, high-quality nursing care, and ambulatory surgery. We will build a well-woven network for Medicare services. We will also provide more convenience in terms of settling off-site medical expenses. We will also try to provide better services to the treatment of a growing number of major diseases. We will also tackle head-on those problems relating to these poor regions, as well as those families who have fallen back to poverty because of high medical expenses. We will try to ensure that our people are healthier. And in particular, we will provide better maternal and infant healthcare services. We will shore up weak links, in particular those obstetrical as well as pediatrical services. And these are some of the weak links that we will try to make up for. We'll also mobilize resources at the primary levels, further innovate the medical care system, and to bring more benefits to our people in the medical sector.
Let me answer the question from the perspective of old age care. Old age care is the biggest aspiration for all senior citizens. China has already entered the stage of fast growth of population aging. Up until 2016, the population of people over 60 has exceeded 230 million, accounting for 16.7%. Those over 65 years old have reached the number of 150 million, accounting for 10.8% of the whole population. In the time to come, the size of senior citizens will continue to grow at a faster speed, and the peak will last for a long time. Therefore, people will be following very closely the issue of old age care. In terms of social security, I believe there are two thorny issues or difficulties. First, how to ensure that all people have access to old age care security. That is to say, we need to widen the coverage of our old age care. The ratio is now over 90%, but China has a large population. There are nearly 100 million people who still have not participated in the old age care social security scheme. This is already the size of a big country in the world. So how can we ensure full coverage? Among these 100 million people, there are three categories. First is those with flexible employment. Second is the people in new business forms, because we know that new business forms are now developing very rapidly in China, including the internet, express delivery, and other industries. Third is employees in small and medium-sized enterprises, especially migrant workers. Those three categories of people are still not yet enrolled in our old age scheme or pension scheme. So when they reach a certain age, they will lack the basic social security assistance. So how can we ensure that they are enrolled in our scheme? That is a major task to be resolved. Second is the sustainability of pension funds. In the preliminary stage of our institutional building, that is, say, in the 1990s, the ratio of pension scheme is 5 to 1. That is, 5 people support 1 retired person. However, as our population kept aging, this ratio has dropped to 2.8 to 1, which means 2.8 people support 1 retired person. Looking into the future, the ratio will continue to drop. This means higher pressure for the payment and the sustainability of our pension funds. Therefore, we must ensure the system more sustainable. So this is the biggest thorny issues of mine. Do we have tools to resolve them? Yes, we do. From the third plenum of the 18th CPC Central Committee, we have started reforming the pension system. We have a master plan and a top-level plan and design. We're now implementing that in a step-by-step manner. The first issue is that, which is included in the 19th National Congress report, we need to ensure the full coverage of our pension scheme. And we must ensure the registration of all people who have not yet enrolled in the coverage, so that we will be able to mobilize all those who have not yet enrolled to participate in this scheme. Second is to ensure the sustainability of pension funds. We have multiple measures in this regard. First, which is also included in the report to the 19th Party Congress, we need to realize the national coordination of pension scheme as quickly as possible. Next year, we will take the first step, that is to implement the central reallocation of pension funds to ensure that in different regions there will be a balanced payment of pension funds. Because China is a large country, there is an imbalanced development in different regions. Therefore, population are aged to different levels in different regions. For example, in the province of Heilongjiang, it is the most difficult province in terms of pension fund. The ratio is 1.3 to 1, while in Guangdong province, with the highest ratio, it is 9 to 1. After the national coordination plan, we will ensure that all provinces will help each other out. In terms of our current pension scheme and funds, we have surplus of over 4 trillion yuan. Therefore, it is not problematic at all, but there is indeed imbalance between different provinces. Therefore, we need to implement the report to the 19th Party Congress and take the first step. Second is the operation of pension funds. Decision has already been made by the State Council. 8 provinces have entrusted pension funds, pension foundations to operate the pension funds. So we need to ensure the preservation and creation of added value for pension funds. Third is the complementation to social security funds by state-owned assets to ensure the pool will keep growing. So that are the measures that we will take. In the long term, we will have more measures. We will adopt them as they become well developed, so that our pension system and old age care system will be better developed to meet the basic needs for all senior citizens. Thank you.
行，第二排那位女士，对，好。
谢谢主持人，我是凤凰卫视、凤凰网的记者。我这个问题想问给住建部的王部长。从去年930以来呢，我们也可以看到关于楼市的调控政策频出。那么到目前为止呢，整个全国的楼市已经出现了明显的降温。请问您怎么看当前的房地产市场的形势？那么下一步针对房地产有哪些长效的机制？谢谢。
With Phoenix TV and its affiliated website, ever since the 30th September last year, much has been done to regulate the real estate market. And nationwide, the housing market has been cooling down noticeably. This question goes to Minister Wang of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. What is your take of the current state of the housing market, and what will be done to build a long-term mechanism for the real estate sector?
这个问题呢，刚才我在简要介绍的时候也已
Well,
经
in my
都
opening
说明。
remarks, I
这个从
had already
去
given some
年10
introduction
月份以
to
来
this
呢，
issue. Since
这个我
October
们按
last
照
year,
党中央、国务院
we
的部署
acted，in line with
和
the
有关
plan
部门
of
一起
the
呢，
Party Central
这
Committee and
个
State Council and
坚
worked
持
with
这
relevant
个分
departments 坚
类施策，
to
坚持因城因地施策。
apply
同
categorized
时呢，这
and
个采取了一
city-specific
些
measures.
这个有针对性的一些措施，
And have
落实
taken
地方政府
targeted
的主体
measures
责
to
任。
implement the
应该
accountability
说呢，
system
在
of local
抑制
governments.
住房
It
的
has
投
to be
资
said
性
that
这些投资
our
方面
efforts have been
在
effective
这个
in
引导这
containing
个住房的合
speculation in
理
real
需求这
estate
方面，
market
应该说发挥了一定
and
的作
meeting
用。
the reasonable
所
needs
以就目
for
前来
housing.
看呢，我们的这个房地产市场
Currently, the real
还是
estate market
平稳健康的。
is basically
那么
stable
具
and
体的来说
sound.
呢，
To
第
be
一个
more
就刚才你已
specific,
经说了，就
first,
是我们现
as
在
you
的这
already
个商品
mentioned,
房的销售
the
的增速
commercial
应
housing
该
sales
说
growth
有
speed
平稳的回落。
is steadily dropping.
全国商品房销售面积
The
同比的
size of
增速
commercial
从今
housing
年的年
sales
初呢的
growth
25.1%
dropped from
回落到
25.1%
1到9
earlier
月份
this
的
year to
10.3%。
10.3%
这
from
个其
January
中呢，
to
这个
September,
商品住宅的情
in
况呢，
which
就
commercial
从
residential
23.7%
housing dropped
回
from
落到
23.7%
7.6%。
to
这是
7.6%.
一个方面。第二个方面呢，就是房价过快
Second,
上涨的势头呢，
the
得到
excessive
了有效的抑制。
rising trend of
到
prices
8
of
月份，
housing
按照
is
国家统计
effectively
局的统
contained.
计，这个一
In
线城
August,
市的新
according
建
to
商品住宅
statistics,
价
the
格
newly built
同
commercial
比的这个涨
residential
幅呢，
housing
这个
price
是连续11个月
grew
回落。
slower
二线
for
城市呢是
11
连续
consecutive
8个月
months.
连续
In
9个月回落。
second-tier
三线
cities,
城市的涨
it
幅
has
呢，
dropped
目前
for
呢
9
回落了
consecutive
0.3个百分点。
months. In
这个
third-tier cities,
我们所关
it
注的
dropped
16个热点
0.3
城市的
percentage points. In
新
the
的商品
16
住宅的
popular
价格
cities
环
that
比
we
呢，
follow closely, the
大幅是
month-to-month
下降
growth rate
有个别
mostly
城市呢是
dropped.
持平。
In
应
some
该说呢，
cities,
同比
they
呢
remained
涨幅
stable,
呢是全面的这个
and
回
the
落。
year-on-year
这个
growth
我们预
speed
计
all
呢，
dropped.
今年4季度呢，
We
全国的
estimate
房地产
that
市
in
场
the
还
fourth
将
quarter of
延
this
续
year, the real
这个
estate
成交
market
量
in China will
增速回
continue
落，
the
成交价
continue
格
the
趋于
trend
稳定的走势。
of dropping growth
对于全年的这
speed
个房地产升值
and
呢，我们也
stable
认为呢，能够保持不同
transaction size.
运行的这么一个态势。
So we will be able to
这
maintain
个下一步
the
呢，我
steady
们
trend
还
that we
将这
currently
个
see.
坚持
In the
这
next
个
step,
调
we will
控目标
continue
不动摇，
to
力度
stay committed
松
to
劲，
our management goals and
保持呢
intensity
政策的
to
连续性
ensure
和稳定性。
continuity and
特
stability
别
of
是呢，
our
按
policies.
照
In
这次
particular,
这个总书记提出的
we will follow
这
the
个
principle laid out
房
by
子
General
是
Secretary
用来住的，
that is,
不是用来
houses
炒
are
的
for
定位。
living in, not for
这个
speculation.
加快呢建立呢
We will
这个
accelerate
多
the
主体供
building
给、多渠道保
of
障、
multi-source supply,
购租
multi-channel
这么一个住房制度。
support,
关于
and
这
equal
个
importance
房
to
地产的长效
purchasing
机制的
and
这个问题
renting.
呢，上次
Regarding the
19号
long-term
在
mechanism
这个我们
on the
中央
19th,
国家代表团开放日的时候，我也谈了这个意见。
at the
在这
open
呢
day
我想就不
for
说
the delegation for central ministries, I already elaborate our position. I will not repeat them. Thank you.
对不起，那个我给联合早报的记者啊。好。
谢谢主持人。您好，我是新加坡联合早报的记者。我这边那个问题是，习主席在这个19大报告里面勾勒出了这个第2个100年目标，然后就说了2049年要实现怎么样的中国。想请各位部长就是设想一下，在你们各自负责的领域，目前负责的领域和具体领域，教育啊、住房，到了2049年会出现一个怎么样的一个情况？谢谢。
With 联合早报 of Singapore, we have heard in President President Xi Jinping's 19th Party Congress report, visions for the two centenary goals of China and what development achievements will China make by 2049. My question goes to all the 5 ministers. In your specific fields of responsibilities, what progress will be made by that time?
你可以讲啊，黄部长讲还是陈部长讲？他点名了。那先陈部长讲吧。陈部长就准备好了。好，2049年的。我先说。你说先说吧，我们2位部长啊，让2位部长说。
这个。 你提出这个问题啊，很有意思。
This is a very interesting question.
展望未来是一门艺术。
To look ahead is
当然
a form of art.
它也能展现我们的信心和预期。
Look ahead.
就教育来说呀。
We will have
2049年建国
some expectations and confidence.
会是个什么样子呢
So what will be China's education like in the year
我心目
2049
中的
as the country
2049
celebrates
年的
its
中国教育
centenary? So this is a topic
恐怕有这么几
concerning
个特征。
education in my
第一
mind by the year 2049. Here will be some of the features. First,
中
by
国教育
2049,
将稳稳地
China's
立于
education
世界教育的中心。
will steadily
引
stand
领
at
世
the
界教育
center
发展的潮流。
of the world and lead the tide
这
of
是什么意思
education
呢？
development in the
就是
world.
说，到那个时候，
This means
中
that
国的
by
标准将成为
2049,
世界的标准。
China's standards will be world
这是我
standard.
想一个想法。
So
第二
this
点
is
就是
my prediction.
到那个时候，
Second,
中国将成为
by 2049,
世界上人们最向往
China will be
留学
the most favorable
将有
destination for overseas students in the world.
各国愿意和中华文化
There will
实
be
现交
a
流
growing
融
number
合
of people who are willing
学习
to integrate and
交流
exchange
中国
with
发
the
展
Chinese traditional
经验
culture
这样
and
的
to
有知识
exchange
学生
experience
老师
with
来
China,
中
and that
国
also
交流
include
在
teachers
交流融
and
合中
scholars.
实现共同
In the
进步
process of exchange and sharing, we will
我还想
achieve
到那个时候
common
世
development.
界教育发展的规
I also
则
imagine that by the year 2049,
有更大的
China will have a bigger say in terms of the education rules making in the world. We will make our utmost efforts to contribute
中国版的教
our
材
share to rules making
汉语
and to offer a
发
Chinese
音的教材
option.
能够走向世
Fourthly,
界，
the
这就是我
Chinese
心目中的
Mandarin language
2049
textbooks
对于
will be
我们国
available
家的
throughout
人
the
民当
world.
时的人民都能够使
And I
自己的受教
Also
育权益得到
imagine
完
that
全的
people's rights
受
and
教育的
interests
这个美好
of
需求
access
都
to
能够得
education
到
and their
满足
will be protected and
能
their
够向着
aspiration
自由而全面发展的目
to
标
education will be met. They will be able to develop them fully. So that is my prediction for the year 2049. Minister Wang.
你这个问题也是我们下一步要
This question is also what we need to very study and formulate our plans in the next step.
的这个我个人的想法
My personal view is that
到本世纪中叶
by
建设社会
the middle of this century, we will build
至少我们
a
要实
strong
现
and
这个
modern
我们的
socialist
居
country.
住环境、居住条件
Our housing
达到
environment and housing
当时的
conditions will
世界的
at least
最先进的水平
reach the most
也
advanced
就是说要
standard
实
in the
现我
world.
们
That is
群
to
众
say,
也实现报告中提出的
we need
叫
to
做住有所居
meet
这
the
只是一个
living
基本的
needs
条件
of all
不
people.
光要
This
住有
is
所
only
居
a basic
而且要
requirement.
生活在一个美丽的环境里去也就是说
We
要
need
建
to
成
not
美丽
only
中
meet all the basic
同时
needs,
呢
but also
还要
build
使
a
我们的
beautiful
这个
environment
居住
for China that
的
is a
设施
beautiful
设备
China. At the same
能够
time,
更
the
方便
facilities
更
and
齐全
infrastructure of housing
让
in
我们
China
的
will be
老百姓
better
生活
developed
得更
so
幸
that
福
our people
获得感
have
更强
better lives
谢谢
and happier lives.
我们
Thank
再
you.
安排2个提问吧。好好，第3排，对。
谢谢主持人，我是澎湃新闻记者。我的问题是提给李斌主任的。对老百姓而言，他们最关心的莫过于改革的实际效果到底是怎么样。 那么请问，国家近些年重点推进的公立医院综合改革，给人民群众看病就医带来哪些实实在在的好处？谢谢。
With the paper, my question goes to Minister Li from the National Health and Family Planning Commission. For the general public, they are interested first and foremost in whether the reform can deliver real benefits to their lives. The reform of public hospitals has been carried out for several years. How does that help to give people better access to medical and healthcare services?
谢谢这位记者。
Thank you.
人民对美好生活的向往
People's aspiration for a better life is our goal. So this is a question from the perspective of people. The public health is an important mark for a better life. So in this sense, healthcare and medical services is not only an issue concerning people's well-being, but also a political responsibility for us to advocate and implement a people-centered governance approach. So this is the perspective based on which that we have been advancing the reform of public hospitals in order to provide easier access to our people. So we are tackling those problems head-on and have been achieved the following progress in deepening reform. First, we have enhanced the comprehensive service capability. We have increased medical resources. By the end of 2016, there were over 980,000 medical and healthcare institutions in China with 11 million medical staff. Compared with the 18th National Congress, the number of licensed doctors or assistants increased from 1.8 per thousand to 2.3 per thousand, and the number of registered nurses went up from 1.5 per thousand to 2.5 thousand, and hospital beds increased from 3.6 per thousand to 5.4 per thousand. This means progress being made in basic healthcare resources. We have also built a primary level medical care service network covering both the urban and rural areas. People have better access to medical care services. In the year 2016, there were 7.9 billion service amount in the hospitals and the clinics in China. That is a very impressive figure. It also shows that people have more convenient access to medical services. Over 55% of the visits are to those primary level medical institutions. We are shoring up weak links and allocating more resources to the primary level clinics. Over 90% of the public hospitals in China are now involved in various forms of partnerships between medical institutions. Over 6,800 public hospitals have developed telemedicine services. Now, hospitals in Beijing can provide distant medical services for patients in Inner Mongolia. We have also increased supplies in human resources in the obstetric, pediatric, GP, rehabilitation, and nursing services. And we have also increased service capabilities at the primary level and in remote regions. All this has laid a solid foundation for building a quality and efficient healthcare service system. Second, we have reduced the burden on the population. The participation in basic medical insurance stood above 95%, with the proportion of reimbursement further increased. We have increased the consistency between these basic medical care insurance system with major disease insurance, medical assistance, and emergency assistance of major diseases, as well as commercial insurances. By September this year, all public hospitals have abolished drug markups, and we have also reduced the price of consumptive materials and lower the costs of medical checkups, reformed the methods for pay-ups, and increased government expenditure. We have curbed the trend of rising medical care expenditure. Take Beijing, for example. Since the launch of reform of separating the clinic services and pharmacy services, the increase of medical expenditure was less than 2%. So the people have directly benefited from such reforms. Illness is an important reason that has resulted in the fact that some families have fallen back to poverty. Therefore, we have adopted tailored approaches, including treating those with major diseases, providing contracted services to those chronic diseases patients, and offering insurances to those catastrophic diseases. We have also established a basic cushion to ensure that a health-related issue will not become a stumbling block for our people to become moderately prosperous. Thirdly, we have put in place a number of policies to deliver benefits and convenience to our people. We are trying whatever we can to improve the convenience of our people to medical services, or municipal level hospitals are providing treatment based on appointment and high quality nursing services. More than half of the municipal level hospitals now offer a day surgery, and for 80% of the hospitals, they recognize each other's medical results. Some hospitals have also developed smart clinic services and drug prescription services, shortening the waiting time for the patients. They have also relied on new technologies such as cloud computing and big data, making it more convenient for the patients based on the better use of information technology. We have also adopted lengthy prescriptions and extended prescriptions to encourage more hospital visits to go to those primary level medical institutions and alleviating the burden of major hospitals. Fourthly, we have improved the standards and the systems of medical care services. We are improving the quality control network of medical services, formulating over 1,200 clinical pathways covering major diseases, and these pathways are now being implemented in nearly 7,000 hospitals. We have improved the use of medicines. The use of antibiotics went down by nearly 50%. Both the capability and the standards of medical services are increasing. Now, many county-level hospitals can now engage in brain tumor surgeries and cervical spine diseases surgeries. So they are seeing more hospital visits. And number 5, people's overall health conditions have been improved. So all this progress that we have made in the past 5 years in a sustainable way, and this shows that reform is an ongoing process. We have removed the old systems, and at the same time, we need to consolidate and improve the new mechanisms, and it will take time. As the medical services improves, people still have their needs, and there are also areas that they are not satisfied with. We are still trying to tackle the principal contradiction of inadequate and unbalanced medical services development. We also have short and weak links in terms of medical talents in the poor areas and remote areas. Therefore, we need to continue to advance healthcare reforms. We will never be satisfied with ourselves, and we will seriously
implement the guiding principles outlined by the 19th National Congress on promoting a healthy China initiative. We will further improve the health of the population, continue to deepen reform, and build a basic healthcare system with Chinese characteristics. We will continue to focus on ensuring that people will have a stronger sense of benefit and a sense of fulfillment, and we will try to provide high quality and high standard services to our people, and to provide more reassured, comfortable, and careful services to our people.
再一个，那行吧，就给第二块。他从第一个问题到现在一直在举手，
谢谢主持人，我是来自中国教育电视台、中国教育网络电视台的记者。那有一个问题呢，我想问一下陈宝生部长。那么在会议的一开始，您介绍了说我国的教育体制已经形成了4梁8柱的改革方案已经基本形成了，教育改革呢是进入了全面施工内部装修的一个阶段哈。那我们知道今年的9月24号，中共中央办公厅、国务院印发了关于深化教育体制机制改革的意见。其实我们大家都知道，这个教育改革的推进是一个难度很大的一个事情。那么下一步，我们关于这个教育体制机制改革方面有什么样的考虑，将出台一个什么样的举措？谢谢您。
With CETV and its affiliated website, my question goes to Minister Chen of Education. As you said in your opening remarks that the general pillars for China's educational system have been set up and the reform of this sector has entered into a new stage. We also know that on 4th September this year, the State Council has issued opinions on further enhancing reform in the educational sector. What will be the difficulties in this regard? What are the new considerations or measures to be adopted in this direction? Thank you.
好，谢谢您对教育改革的关注。
Well, thank you for your interest in the reform of educational system. Before answering question, I would like to share with you some concepts. The reform of the education sector has its own specialities. First of all, it is a gradual process. After the launch of reform, it will take time before its result come out. It will at least take 3 years. Second, for each and every reform measures of education, it directly concerns our people. It is actually a reform for our people. This is an important concept. Thirdly, it is a very much comprehensive reform that covers all areas, including schools, the society, and the family. The headmasters, the teachers, the students, as well as their parents. So it involves a very comprehensive evaluation method. In terms of top-level designs, we have already put in place some overall guiding principles on reform. As you have mentioned, the State Council has already issued relevant paper. We have also launched reform on college entrance examinations. We have also started a reform on the development of senior secondary education, as well as the development of junior secondary education and compulsory stage education, focusing on reducing the burden of the students. For preschool education, we also have relevant reform measures. So all these are top-level designs covering the entire stage from a preschool stage to the university and college stage, and all these reform measures have been approved by the State Council. exchange and the cooperation between China and other countries in the field of education is also something that we will do. This is an important part of reform of education, and we are implementing relevant measures. That is why I say that we have put in place the basic framework for reform of the education sector. Now we have already launched the implementation stage. We are implementing all of the measures. We are also focusing on some details, because in some areas, particularly in some leading areas, that progress has already been made. We are now turning to some of the details. For example, in the reform of the college entrance examination, we are tackling some problems occurred in the process of trials. And we are encouraging those prefecture-level cities to support the whole process of reform.
那今天的记者招待会到此结束，谢谢大家。
That was the 5th press conference held on the sidelines of the 19th CPC National Congress. The press conference focused on people's livelihood, ranging from education, employment, housing, social security to health. And for more insight, let's talk to our current affairs commentator, Mr. Li Yong. Well, Mr. Li, it's a very comprehensive and wide-ranging press conference, but let's start with major tasks for the future, for the upcoming 5 years. Let's start with the education sector. What's your impression on the plan laid out by the Minister of Education?
I think it is really important to see that the future plan is going to be tilted to the less developed areas in the middle and western China. I think this is really an effort to achieve equilibrium in education, equality in education. So the idea of integrated urban and rural development, I think that is going to be the pillar. I'm very impressed by the way that the minister is communicating with the journalists. The colloquialism he demonstrated is very.
He looks very confident to achieve all those targets.
Yes, and he said, the basic structure of the educational system reform has been there, and we are now in a stage of interior decoration, and the future outlook. He's pretty confident as well, and especially the assessment of the current situation. He said he used another colloquial type of description. He said, the size is bigger, for example, and the look is better, is better looking. That
and the quality also is also improving toward world's top level.
Yes, exactly, and the ranking is higher. So basically, I think the current situation is going to move towards, as I said earlier, the balanced development, as well as education equality.
What about structural problem? For example, in employment, the Minister for Human Resources and Social Security mentioned a very daunting task for its work for the ministry's work in the future. That is a structural problem in China's employment market. First of all, it's very difficult, very challenging to find a job for college graduates. But at the same time, companies and organizations are difficult to find first-year and frontline workers. How to deal with that?
Yeah, I think he mentioned two directional approaches. One is the employment policy is going to be combined with other policies such as macroeconomic policy, industrial sectoral policies, physical policies, and financial policies, and so on. And another thing he mentioned is to improve the employability of the workforce, basically to increase the vocational training, for example. That will help the employability of the future workforce going into the job market.
But it looks like for medical care and health, things are much more complicated because people are expecting comprehensive coverage, availability, and high quality. What do you think would be the most difficult part for the Commission's work in the future?
Yeah, I think in the future, I think it is going to be the improvement in the quality medical service, because right now the quality of medical service is quite uneven. As I said earlier before the press conference, in less developed area, the quality of the medical service is not really that kind of ideal, even though they have really top quality hardware. But they don't really have the software, and that I think will require a lot of effort. To send to send people, the professional, high quality doctors to go to those localities to train the doctors, and secondly, they can use the modern technology, for example, internet, to perform like long distance education, training, but also the internet also provides a possibility that kind of what people call
right,
long-term
looks like
surgery.
all those ministries will deal with inadequate and unbalanced situations in people's livelihood. Thank you very much, our current affairs commentator, Mr. Li Yong there. That's it for this special coverage of CGTN. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. Bye for now.